Hello, welcome. My name is Narelle M. Harris, and this is my very first video that I'm doing for my Patreon supporters. So thank you. I hope it all works out, and that I work out also how to do editing, because I'm bound to make some mistakes and would like to slice them out and save you the bother. But if I don't, hey, here I am in all my mystic glory. This is my house. I'm just sitting at my computer. I've just been doing some updates for Patreon, and behind me you can see some of the artwork that I have on my wall. So yeah, welcome to the humble abode. I don't know where I might be filming in future, but here we are for now. I wanted to do a post today and try doing it this way, something a little bit different, because of a conversation that I had at a party last week. The Romance Writers of Australia are having their annual conference in Melbourne this year. I'm not going because I'm about to head off overseas for the World Science Fiction Convention. But Harlequin Publishers, who also run Escape Publishing, who did my book Grounded in March this year, always like to have an author party ahead of the conference. So we were there with lots of beautiful, lovely, wonderful writers, having chats, lots of champagne and canapes. It was very nice. And I got talking to one author who confessed to me that although she's been writing and is making good money, she's self-publishing now as well, you know, she's a successful writer of romance and erotica. But she said to me that she still felt like a fraud when she came to these events, because essentially because of her background was in mathematics and education in teaching, and maths was her field, not English, and she felt that she really didn't have the technical English skills, and you know, needed some editing or help with that along the way. And so when she came to these events surrounded by writers, she didn't feel like she was a real writer. And you know, some other time I'm going to do a whole long rant about this real writer business that gets bandied about, and I think the term real writer needs to be taken out and beaten to death with a cricket bat. But like I said, we'll save that rant for another time, or at least more of the rant for another time, because right now what I want to talk about is what I said to her at the time. It's something that I really strongly believe, that there is a difference between being a writer in some sense and being a storyteller. Now, I'm a writer for my day job as well as for fiction writing, so I do corporate writing for clients, sometimes some quite technical things, and help proofreading and editing for example, some universities and their reports on projects and investigations they're doing into particular ideas or what have you. I used to also teach English as a foreign language, so in fact I do have pretty good, if I say so for myself, technical skills as in writing. So my grammar and my punctuation, how you phrase things, how sentence construction and paragraph construction works, because I used to actually have to unbolt all that and look how it works so I could teach it to people when I lived in Egypt and then in Poland. So you can have really good technical skills as a writer, and some writers have those magnificent technical skills and they use them to do things like produce how-to guides, or to do scientific reports, or do technical manuals and things like that, and that's perfectly exact and what you need for that. But that kind of writing does not necessarily translate easily into being a storyteller. I feel, I don't know, might be a controversial opinion here, but I read J.K. Rowling stories, her books, aloud a lot, and like nothing reveals awkwardness in flow or difficulties in writing or unnecessary repetition in a work like reading it aloud, which is, again, I'll post another time on that, but I really recommend as a part of your editing process you try to do that with your own work. So look, technically, I'm not sure that J.K. Rowling has the best technical skills in the world, like not a patch on P.G. Wodehouse's The Master. But that doesn't mean that she is not an excellent and awesome storyteller. For all the flaws that get sometimes pointed up in elements of her books, at least by me, but you know, like, she writes compelling characters, she drags us into her world. She makes us care about what's going on and the friendships and how people are feeling about each other. We care about the outcomes. And, you know, I cried for an owl for a start. Sorry about the spoiler. But, you know, there's a lot that I got super engaged with in the Rolling Stories without it being necessarily the technically best writing I've ever read, but it really got me in the heart because she's a really, really good storyteller. By the same token, my mother, I found out very, very late in her life through a friend actually, that my mum had always wanted to write a family history. I sent her to do a family history writing course. I thought she might enjoy that, get something out of it. And the friend who taught that course said to me, look, your mum's got a great imagination. She's actually a marvellous storyteller. And like the family always knew, mum could sit down and tell a yarn like nobody's business. An absolute natural as a storyteller in the verbal sense. But she used to get so hung up on writing proper English when she tried to write a story. She'd left school at 14. I think that sort of affected her confidence quite a lot in terms of how to communicate in the written word, and perhaps it might have been something to do with the kind of schooling that was around back then, that sort of stuff. But so it would blocked her from being a writer, being a storyteller in the written form, because she just didn't feel that she could, and she lost her voice, she lost her capacity to share the story in the, you know, and often very hilarious stories as well, but it all got lost, it all got munched down into this rather dry A then B then C then D kind of factual storytelling, because she was trying so hard to be proper and correct, and that fear and that concern and that insecurity robbed her of that capacity. And I was astonished and very touched to find out that actually storytelling was something that we had in common, that's something that we liked to do together. So those are the stories that I told this woman that I met and spoke to at the party, because I think it's really important to remember that there can be a difference, and that you can be a natural storyteller and not necessarily naturally or have acquired the technical skills yet in ways to tell that story. But the two things you can do about that is A, don't worry about it, just tell your story. There's ways of working through editing and things later to polish and tidy up and do things. But B, you can acquire the technical skills, and if all the technical skills in the world won't necessarily help you if you are not a natural storyteller. But if you naturally have stories that you like to tell, either verbally or as you write them down and stuff, but there can be such vividness and such passion, such energy in stories, regardless of whether they're, like I said, technically perfect in terms of how the English writing is going. So yeah, look at, if you're feeling worried, if there's any fears that you're having about the storytelling that you're writing, if you have anxiety or feel that your writing's not good enough, one of the things perhaps to look at is, like, if you have stories to tell and you like to tell them, part A, you're just already a storyteller, and you can start to get those things down and stop being afraid of the words and stop being afraid of grammar and things like that. Those are technical skills that you can acquire and work on a bit later. Perhaps you can, there are other people can help you do that and help you edit and work with you to get to that point, but never be afraid. If you're a storyteller, you belong here. And you are, I've already beaten the word real writer to death with a cricket bat in my head quite often. But you're a writer. If you write, you're a writer. If you tell stories, you're a storyteller. So get out there, get your pens, your pads, or your computer like me, because my handwriting cannot keep up with my brain. Let me tell you. So if I try to handwrite stories, I can't read them 2 hours later. So get your weapon of choice, your wordsmithing of choice. Get out there and tell your stories. Thank you for joining me. I hope this was interesting and or fun, and I hope to do this again soon. Thanks, bye.